Alright, welcome back to Ramen Rewatch, the show where we break down our favorite anime one bowl at a time. Today we're diving into one of the wildest power fantasies ever created, the Misfit Demon King Academy.
Yeah, this one is where the main character literally dies, reincarnates 2,000 years later, and still never stops flexing. We're talking god tier power levels, sibling drama, and a demon king who revives people by blinking.
And there's my co-host, Sean. How you doing tonight, Sean?
What up? It's me.
Alright, I got my other co-host here, Landon.
What's up, guys?
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about the Misfit Demon King Academy. This is one that I think all three of us, this is our first time watching, so that's definitely cool that we're getting to experience a new anime for the first time. And I was talking a little bit earlier with the guys, and I was kind of just trying to get some of their thoughts on the overall of the anime, but it really made me kind of I don't know, think this was a really cool watch, kind of something that was always on the fringe of my like watch list. So it's definitely cool to get into. But for you guys, what was your guys' first impressions of the podcast or the anime? Sorry.
Go ahead, Landon. I know you got it.
My first impression of the anime was it was pretty cool. Overall, exciting. I wouldn't say it's like my typical watch so far. Not as much like hand to hand combat off rip, more like strategical playing instead of just like overall manhandling somebody. He's like the main character, ANOS, is a lot more perceptive than what he makes out to believe, especially considering how strong he is. You wouldn't think he's also that perceptive at the same time. I liked it.
Yeah. How about you, Sean?
Um, I mean, the anime really caught me off guard. I was not expecting this very overpowered character within Anos. It is a different style hair anime for me too. Very hexy, very magical and spells like. The last spells really anime I've watched was Black Clover. So I mean this was a good switch up from what I normally watch. But I honestly liked it. At first I was like it didn't make sense. But as I got to like episode two, three, I was like, yeah, this anime is fire.
Yeah. I think that's a great way of describing it, like kind of catching you off guard. For me, I've watched a lot of like fantasy based or like isekais, so it was kind of up my alley. But I know for you guys, that's not something that you've really delved into much, especially Landon. So it was kind of cool to see you guys really be excited about it as much as I was. But let's get into some
I
of the
would say more.
characters, kind of set the scene a little bit. So this is, like I said, a fantasy world where magic exists. It seems like there are two main races, at least. You've got the demons and the humans, and they've been in. I know there's also gods too. I know that one of the later arcs is something god Sark or something like that. So we can get into that on the next podcast. But it seems to have two major races where they're struggling against each other. And 2,000 years in the past, the Demon King of Tyranny, Anios, our main character, sacrificed himself to basically create peace. So, in that first episode, we kind of meet our main character, and right off the bat, you kind of see him flexing on his power. What do you guys think in that like first couple scenes? You get to see what he's capable of.
I thought he was insane.
Yeah, I think it's
Like
hard not to.
there was he was just born and he was already working people as if he was a seasoned veteran.
It was a month
It's,
old.
it's, that's what I'm saying. He was a month old and he was blinking at people and
God,
sending them to the
that poor
shadow
guy.
realm. The
I mean, how
shadow.
many times? I mean, how many times? I think he killed him like what, 8 times and revived him 8 times in a
That's
row.
what I'm saying. What did he do? He just went like this. That's all he did. And he
Oh,
was
you
a
thought you was
month
gone?
old.
Back here, boy.
Like It was crazy. It
Oh
was
yeah.
it was oh no, it was unseen.
Well, that's the thing too, right? First off, you get thrown off because he's only 20, like he's a month old, right? So that makes no sense. Obviously, rapidly aged. And then you also have like the prophecy of this year, the Demon King will be reincarnated because he had that promise that he'll come back in 2,000 years. So it's kind of cool that the setting is putting it to where we're at kind of like this critical juncture in the struggle between humans and the demons. But Hanios is nuts. He kind of, when you guys were talking about how he kept like killing that guy, reviving him, and everything, he really kind of showed that even people who are considered strong in this world are ants to him, you know? And so in that first episode, too, you also get introduced to, I think, both Misha and Sasha, right?
I think it's just Misha, not Sasha yet. I think
Okay.
Sasha's in the second episode. Could be wrong, but anyways, they're both very early in the story,
Yeah.
so it doesn't matter. You can talk about them. You need to talk about them both. So the like first two major characters we do
Yeah.
get introduced is Misha and Sasha, or two twin sisters who
Yep.
are complete polar opposites. And I personally like Sasha more as a character, but I also do like Misa at the same time.
Yeah. So that was something we were asking ourselves too when we were watching it. Like, which side are you on? Do you like Misha or Sasha more? And I think it's funny because they are polar opposite in terms of like personality and character design as well. So that was a fun topic conversation. But obviously, those seem to be kind of love interests for our protagonists. That's the other thing too about this show is it does have a lot of love tropes to it, and it does seem like it's kind of a reverse harem where instead of this guy's fawning over all these girls, it's more so all the girls are fawning over our male protagonist. So that's always a good kind of spin too. But these two characters are also really cool. They have a cool connection to Anyos, but even their sisterhood early on was, in question, right? We had that early kind of dynamic between the two where Misha seemed to be like a loving sister, always, being selfless for Sasha. And Sasha kind of hated her because she was like looked down upon from the family and all that. So obviously that kind of blossoms throughout the story, but those two characters are really cool early on, and actually throughout as well. I don't know if in season two they play as big a role, but in this one they were definitely really cool. So in that first episode, we're kind of finding out that Anyos, our main character, is enrolling in this Demon King Academy where they're training these, um, young people into what they hope is like the Demon King, right? Because they're supposed to be uh, reborn this year. And he's having to do the entrance exams, is I believe what the first episode was about. So obviously, we get to see him flex a little bit of his powers there. Um, One of his main rivals to be like the team captain was Sasha early on. So she kind of has like a little bit of an antagonistic role to her. What did you guys think about those like early episodes where he was doing the testing and everything?
Um, at least for me, the testing right off the bat was right off the bat. It reminded me of the oh, why can't I already think of it? I lost the name of it. But the one tournament. What tournament was that? Was that Cell Saga or Buu Saga tournament in Dragon Ball Z? Where they had to punch the punching bag for the reader, the power reader,
I think that's the
punching bag.
Cell Saga.
Cell Saga. Yeah, that's what it reminded me of right from the start. I saw that and I was like, yeah, I don't know if he's going to either break this thing or like I was like I just knew something insane was about to happen for his reading
Oh yeah, well it's
right
kind
from
of like
the
the
start.
solo leveling reader too, right? Like where you break it basically and you're in S tier. You're like off the charts. So that was kind of cool. You saw a lot of parallels to other anime in this too. Like it paid tribute to a lot of stuff as well, which was pretty cool. But What'd you think, Lennon?
I thought it was really good how Sasha's character development progressed over the first couple episodes. If I'm not mistaken, I remember when me and Sean were watching it together, we actually brought up the fact like, holy cow, Sasha's entire persona and personality completely changed in one episode. I love this character now. Because at first introduction, if I'm not mistaken, both me and Sean didn't like her. We thought she was arrogant, over the top, doing a little too much. But then literally like the next episode, we're like, wow, complete 180 on character development. Up until a certain point in a certain scene, I was like, holy cow, like this girl's actually good now. Like she's chill, bet.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how that 180 happened. Obviously, the two of them are going back and forth on like who's going to be um, the. It kind of seems like class rep sort of thing, like the leader of the class. But she obviously is using that as a ploy for something that we'll talk about later. But I think that seeing that change, I think that was actually her, and I think that later on you kind of see her adopt that personality. But the first couple episodes, those trials that they were going through, and the fight that you see between him and Sasha, it is funny because you can see him flexing his power, but not so much so that he's actually gonna like hurt her in any way. He obviously kind of has taken a liking to her as far as a leader goes. So that's pretty cool foreshadowing for what we see later on as well. But what else? Where's the next thing that kind of was big after that? We get the reveal of ANOS Delhevia, who that's the name of the Demon King of Treachery or Tyranny. Sorry.
False Stephen King.
Yeah, he's the false one. So that's one thing too we're learning is that Anyos has come back. Obviously, he had his fight with Canon, dies, promises to come back in 2,000 years. He does that. However, throughout that time period, his name has been like stricken from the records. Basically, someone else has assumed his name of the Demon King of Tyranny, and Avos de Hovia is this character. We're not sure who that is. He's tracked down some of his former colleagues. We see that in a couple of the later episodes. He tries to restore their memory, and they can't really recall this character. So it is one big mystery that happens throughout this first season. But what do you guys think hearing that name and kind of getting that feeling of like, you know, false history?
I'll go ahead. I think my very first initial thought was, I mean, of course, everyone would probably think confusion, but I don't know if it's the way that the anime was kind of like portraying it, but I was honestly like really confused. Like I couldn't really think of what character we even met already that could possibly have been it, or what character like may have been foreshadowed or upcoming, like foreseeable within the next two episodes. Because I feel like usually if something like that happens, it's a character that you see earlier within the anime that just seems very minimal, very minuscule, and then later it's like, no, he was like a giant mastermind, and I was just like, but that really doesn't seem like that would fit the description of any of these lower guys. But then as I kept watching it, it started to make more sense on the way that they were going about it.
So my opinion on Avos del Heavier is when I was watching the anime, we did get a flashback scene of when before this, like at the start of the anime, we had a flashback scene of when Anyos actually did sacrifice himself with Hiro Kanen, and his right man was there named Shin, who we'll talk about more later. And when I heard the name Avos del Heavier, my initial reaction was it was either that Shin betrayed Anyos and took his position at the helm to take control of all the demons, or it was the hero Conan who wanted the all power of all the demons as well, and basically took their power away from them and became the king of them. That was my prediction on it. I didn't know where it was obviously going because I needed to watch more of the anime. But I think it was an interesting turn, and it was a good like plot for the story. It was a good starting plot for the story to like for the first season, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think setting up a mystery early on is always good. I know early on I was telling you guys I think maybe the person who changed the history was the hero. You know, early on you don't know if the other hero was good or bad. You know, Anyos, did he sacrifice himself because he thought he was doing it for the greater good, and this other person was bad. You didn't really know much about him. Obviously, later on we learn more, but it sets up a really cool mystery, and we actually really don't get it paid off till late in the season, so that's pretty cool. But moving on, after that, he truly goes and joins the Demon King Academy. He officially enrolls, and he meets Misha, which we kind of talked about earlier. And we kind of get into like the third or fourth episode, and this is kind of where you get your conflict between Sasha and Misha. Um, you get so Misha. If you get well, actually, I'll let you guys, or Lana, if you want to explain kind of the sisterly conflict between Misha and Sasha.
Oh, bet. Okay, so how I was talking about Sasha's character development a second ago. At first, she was obviously rivals with Anyos because she wanted to be top of her class and wanted everyone to look at her as top of the class. And Anyos was standing in her way of that. She then changes her mind, becomes good, and befriends Misa. And while they are doing one of the trials, they're looking for a scepter that is in the old castle that Anyos used to live in. So obviously, Anyos knows where the scepter is. So he takes the two girls and himself and teleports down there because his magic's crazy. And they get the scepter. And while they are getting the scepter, Anyos and Misha go into the treasure room to pick out a gift because Misha mentioned to Anyos that it was Sasha's birthday and she wanted to get her a gift. So Misha is going in the treasure room looking around. She finds a robe that Sasha would probably like. It's a black and red robe. It's supposed to be immunity to fire. Makes a lot of sense with Sasha's personality and her character and how she plays throughout the anime. Also, while they're in the treasure room, Misha spots a ring that she likes, but she tells Anyos that she doesn't want it, even though Anyos suggests that she should take it, and he gives her blessing, and she still doesn't want it, which doesn't make sense at the moment. We'll explain why it makes sense in a little bit. But anyways, they leave the treasure room, and Sasha goes to not Sasha, sorry, Misha goes to give Sasha the robe for her birthday present. And when Sasha receives the robe, her demonic eyes go on first, half a second, and then they go away. And then she's talking to Anyos, and she's talking about, "Hey, ladies are changing here. You need to. Can you turn around?" And then he goes back into the treasure room. Yada yada yada. And then when he comes back out of the treasure room, it turns out Sasha truly stabbed Misha, which really doesn't make sense why she would stab her sister. Then Sasha's basically calling Anyos a fool and this, that, and the third, and all that happened. But yeah, do you want to jump in before I continue?
Yeah, so before this happened too, I got to mention as well. Anyos does end up defeating Sasha, and part of their pact beforehand was, whoever um, beat the other basically had ownership of them, and made it to where she had to basically join his team and be his subordinate. So she's kind of playing coy this entire time up until that event. She seems like she's kind of getting along with Anyos. She's rekindling her reunion with her sister, and accepting her. And then we kind of get this betrayal that Landon mentioned. And so for me, watching it, it was pretty cool. I was not expecting. I was like, "What the hell?" Obviously, she kind of seemed like Spitfire and a little bit crazy earlier on, but she seemed like she completely changed, and then she goes and kills, or seems to have killed her sister. So that was definitely a big twist I wasn't ready for. But later on after that, you know, we get a little bit more resolution. Um, and Sean, what were you thinking? Kind of at that twist point.
Well, I'll tell you, I was so mad at her.
Yeah.
Man, I was so mad. I think Landon, Landon probably heard me. I was cussing the storm.
Well, I think.
Because Misha was my homegirl.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
messing
what I
with
was gonna
Misha.
say.
I was a Misha fan.
Yeah.
I was a Misha fan. I came when Anos came around the corner, that camera pan, and I saw her laying there.
Yeah. No.
I know Landon over there laughing because he remember. You remember how you remember how pissed I got. I went from being completely dead quiet to saying, "Oh hell no."
Yeah. No.
But yeah, that's kind of just how I thought. I thought it was portrayed really good. I thought they did really good of showing the portrayal and uh giving that part of the story. I thought that was shown really well though, as much as it made me mad.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too that cracks me up. So, one thing I wanted to mention is I really like the voice acting in this a lot. I so our main character Anos, he's voice acted by the same guy who does Sun Jin Woo in Solo Leveling. So obviously that's an iconic voice. I was joking with Landon saying I think that when he went in to try to get the part for Sung Jin Woo, he just gave him that character's tape, and that's all he needed because they are very similar characters. Um, but then also too, I the other night when I was watching it, I realized that Sasha's voice is Kikaru Shinomiya from Kaiju Number 8. So once I realized that, like that character just melded there too. So when I saw that twist, I immediately thought of like Kikuru, and I was like, "Damn, that voice actor fits that character so good." But yeah, so we kind of have some resolution there between the sisters. Landon, do you want to kind of tell us how that story ends up? Do you remember?
I think Sean should explain it. Unless you don't remember it, I can't explain it.
Um, I honestly thought it was rounded up pretty good between the sisters. It's a very unique ending for the sisters, if I thought. Or not really ending, I should say beginning. Um, but I thought it was very unique on the way how they approached it. Was not expecting so and so Misha. I was not expecting Misha to be exactly what race she is compared to Sasha. So that was very revealing and very unique. Because I don't think that's ever really been portrayed too much except for, but yeah, really any anime, honestly.
I mean,
Without trying to get any spoilers on it. I feel like that's the best way I can word it.
yeah. So you get Anya's kind of flexing his power again. He merges their existences together so they can coexist at the same time. Because obviously, um, them being twins was partially accurate, partially not. Because
All right, hold on. Let me explain it because y'all are explaining this way wrong. First off, let's explain the reasoning why Sasha betrayed Misha, why she was doing it, and all that before we get into how it happened. So first off, after Anyos defeated Sasha when Sasha killed Misa, Sasha then explains the only reason she killed Misa was for to make to make Misa absolutely hate Sasha. Why Sasha wanted Misa to hate her was because, like Sean said, they are twins, but they are different. Sasha was a pure-blooded demon. Misa was half demon, half spirit, even though they are twins. Misa was set to die on her 15th birthday. This was like 2 hours before their 15th birthday. So Sasha wanted Misa to hate her and everything because Sasha has been working on this spell that would make it if Misa truly hated her sister and wanted nothing to do with her, Misa would live on and Sasha would never live anymore. So Sasha was basically playing the game to make Misa hate her so she could continue to live and Sasha could die so Misha could live. But even though she killed her, even though she said a bunch of nasty things about her and was always rude to her, Misa still did not hate Sasha. Even when she had to hate Sasha for them, for Misa to live, she just could not bring herself to hate her sister. She loved her sister through and through and didn't want to give her up. So then Anyos, what he does, Anyos uses his powers, like you did said. He goes back in time to when they first were split. Or no, sorry, before they were split. And he splits them himself. So then for when they get split again, because they were split by one of the people that we'll talk about later. Once they get split again by that person, instead of it being just 2 people, it would be 4 people. So the 4 would then merge into 2, which then would be Sasha and Misha separately. So that's why Sasha killed Misha. That's why Sasha basically wanted Misha to hate her. And that's how the twin sisters resolve the problems. I thought it was a very unique way of doing it. And I thought
Yep.
it was really cool. And I thought it was a little bit of a power flex for Anyos just to show off his powers a little bit.
Right. Yeah, and that's definitely a much better way to put it. But yeah, that's also what I was kind of trying to say too. He definitely flexes his power there. We see, every couple episodes him do something that's like that doesn't make any sense. We were looking up at some point when we were watching this. I think we were on ChatGPT and we were trying to see who could actually beat Anyos. And
Nobody.
I think it said only characters who have like access to author capabilities are capable of killing him. So if like I said, I haven't seen.
Jaeger.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, no, it's crazy his power level. He shows it again here. Um, but after that entire mini arc that you get with the sisters, it goes next into the building of like the fan club. So you learn um, more. Well, I'm not the best at describing these, but she, what's the character's name?
Misa.
Misha. Misha
Misa.
comes.
M-I.
Okay, Misa. Sorry. Comes
Okay.
to Anyos, and she is kind of basically asking for his help with this fan club that she has. Um, it's it's
The
supposed to be like an
Unitarian.
Anyos fan club, but it's actually for the hybrids of both demons and other kinds of things like spirits, humans, whatever. But she's trying to fight the royalists and get the hybrids some sort of acknowledgement that their power is just as important as the royalists. And this is something that obviously Anios, kind of being a lowborn, has a little bit of an understanding of. So, what did you guys think about seeing that episode?
You go first.
Hey, hold on. Can you repeat the question, Jay?
Yeah. So, sorry, we were.
Thing.
I was talking about how when you get the episode where you see the fan club, Anios kind of
Oh yeah,
gets,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So,
Okay.
what did you
I
guys
thought the
think?
fan club was a pretty funny idea because basically the fan club, it's an ongoing joke throughout the entire anime, but the fan club just basically is a bunch of girls that love Anyos and will do anything that they want them to. And like you said earlier, it's kind of funny to see it be flipped instead of the guy wanting all the girls, it's all the girls wanting the guy. And they're really devoted to him, surprisingly, even though he's only been a student there for like 2 weeks. But yeah, crazy girls out there.
I think that's part of it too. Is thinking about how like that correlates with Anya's character as well. Like he is invested in that club as well because they're supposed to be like fighting the royalists. Um, because all I think Misa is half demon, half spirit, right? And so she's a
Yes.
hybrid, and hybrids don't get very much acknowledgement on their powers and are kind of looked down upon, just like Anyos is from the Royalists. So he has a little bit of empathy there for him. But their power is pretty funny too. Obviously, later on in the show, we see them sing for him a couple times, and it helps increase his power. So they do have a lot of. It's kind of like a mutually beneficial relationship there. But that was kind of a funny little episode because they kind of just finished the mini arc with the two sisters, and we're getting ready to get kind of into like what the main crux of the show is about, finding out about what happened 2,000 years ago, what's happened in between that time period. So
Side,
yeah,
um, Gusta, Anyos's father.
Yeah.
absolutely was ecstatic when he brought home Sasha and Misa for the first time together
Yes.
at the same time. He was like,
Yes. Oh
"Bro,
my.
bro,
Well,
I
that
want."
that was one thing I wanted to mention too. His family are the best wingmen of all time.
Isabella and Gusta.
Yeah,
Yes.
so they are awesome. Later on in the show, they really help like Anya's kind of pull another girl too. We'll talk about her here in a little bit, but no, those two are awesome. I think they definitely help ground Anyos's character too, because obviously he's crazy overpowered, but he does have a really cool relationship with the two of them. So that's pretty cool. But what's up?
All right. So one thing I would say is that the fan club is super cool. The only thing I've seen where girls were chasing a guy in another anime was Eminence in Shadow. Besides that, it's like Landon said, it's been a lot of times where the dude is chasing the girls, just
Yeah.
trying to run over them.
Well, I think you can
But those are
say
two very
like Sun Jin Woo is kind of like that a little bit too. Like that is a common anime trope, but you definitely don't see it nearly as much as the reverse, right? So that's pretty cool. But any other part, like we're kind of at the midway point of the season. So was there any other things you think we kind of forgot to mention that stood out to you?
Oh, his arch rival within his reincarnation, Lei, the
Mhm.
transfer student that came from. I don't remember where he came from, but it was a transfer student that came in. It was this blonde swordsman who was pretty strong. We first get introduced to him when they are testing out the magic sword capability and seeing who's able to lift them up. And the first only, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was only two people were able to do it. I think it was just Anyos and
Yeah.
Lei. I could be wrong on that, but I believe it was just Anyos and Lei, and that was like our first little introduction of them. And then we had our main character and Lei have a little conversation talking about they look forward to competing against each other. But yeah,
Yeah, so Lei's introduction is pretty cool. Another thing too, early on, I think we forgot to mention. Um, I think it was cool his classmates because it is kind of like a show that also involves like academia. So you get some cool moments with his classmates. Obviously, he flexes on a couple of them several times, but he also flexes on his teacher as well. So it's a, it's a cool relationship between him and his peers, but also his teacher. She kind of is a royalist as well, so she doesn't like him being a lowborn and doesn't respect his power. But in one episode, they steal a sword, or he basically finds a sword to try to get an A, and um, the the teacher ends up trying to like create a ploy where she has one of the students steal the sword so that they can't get an A or pass the class, and Anios can use his demonic eyes to basically see it and unveil the truth and kind of flex on the teacher there. So I thought that was kind of a cool another sub storyline that was going on throughout the first part. But yeah, so after we get through that, we start to kind of get into the growing tension between the humans and the demons. Um, they introduce that they're going to have the class go to that special school in the human realm. Lane, do you remember what that was called? I know I had a
I don't.
I know that they had a special name. I'll try to see if I can remember it here in a little bit. But they end up going there and they're kind of doing like a class exchange where they're. Am I missing?
You're skipping over a part. You're skipping over a
Well,
ginormous part.
I'll go ahead.
So before we even get to the student exchange event with the Human Academy and the Demon King Academy, we have the Magic Sword Tournament. You forgot to mention,
Oh,
and completely. So the Magic Sword Tournament is a competition where the top swordsmen from grades like 1, 2, and 3 all compete to like prove who is the strongest. And if I'm not mistaken, it's like if you don't win it, you have like a lower percent chance to become the Demon King or something like that. I have no clue. So first we had Anyos was being told basically by his peers that were in disguise, like running around getting information and stuff on Oh wait, we're missing another part. Crap. So first thing that happens is the class gets visited by one of the seven emperors, the seven demon emperors. When the seven demon emperors appear, Anyo starts talking to him, talking like, "Hey Ivis, hey, long time no see." And Ivis is like, "Oh, we have a viewer in the chat. What's up, brother man?" But anyways, Anyos was talking to Ivis when he walked in the room, like, "Ivis, how you doing? Long time no see." And he was like, "I have no recollection of you." And then he basically like flexed on him as well, showing off his power and showing his strength. And then he started remembering. Well, he acted like he didn't remember that that was Anyos Voldigoat, the old Demon King. So then after class, Ivis goes and meets with Anyos and they have a short conversation. Ivis does slightly remember him, but he acts like he doesn't at the same time, and someone's been messing with his memories. And then what did they go back in time for? I don't remember. What were they going back in
Wasn't
time
that
for?
part of the Misha and Sasha
It was a
thing?
split.
Yeah.
It was a split.
Oh
They went
yeah.
back in time for the
Okay.
split.
Yeah. When Anyos went to go back in time to separate the two souls when they were born, so when they got separated, they become two. Um, Ivis tried to stop Anyos, and Anyos bullied him. Oh my god, it was a massacre. Because actually, what happened was Ivis stabbed Anyos through the chest, thought he killed him, and then he came back, put his hand on his shoulder, and like threw him through a wall, and took a sword and threw it through his head, like destroyed him. Then they'll go back in time, and then when they're going back in time, they get interfered with the time god. I don't remember what his name was, but then the time god was started to talk to Anyos, and then he brought Ivis into the time realm and basically infused himself with Ivis to fight. So after Ivis was fighting Anyos, Anyos destroyed him, beat the crap out of him. And then he looked at his souls or sources, excuse me. Sources is basically what determines like how a person is. It's like their personality or their soul, basically. And when Anyos looked at Ivis's soul, he realized it's been corrupted. He removes the corruption from it and then resurrects the source. And then his old one of his old demon emperor, or yeah, demon emperor, came back and finally had all his memory back, and he starts thanking his majesty and saying, "Lord Anyos, it's great to have you back." And then Anyos basically starts asking him what's happened. So that's the character that's been running around collecting information for Anyos while he is getting ready for the Magic Sword tournament. He's basically telling him, do not participate in it because it is set up to make you lose. There's something bad is supposed to happen if you partake in it. So he's basically not partaking in it. He doesn't want to. He then also goes back home to pay a visit to his parents to let them know that he did get into the tournament, but that he probably wasn't going to be participating. When he got back there with Misha and Sasha, his father was gone. His mother mentioned, "Oh yeah, your father has been out right now." And then she was being like all like weird. She got super sweaty when he would ask about her because his father was making a sword for him, and he just never showed up. He never showed up. Never showed up. Never showed up. And also, right before the tournament started, they had a slight information that they had a visit from Lei. Lei started to have a conversation with him, and then Lei tried to attack Anyos in the back room, and Anyos counter reflected and attacked him back. During their encounter in the back room before the Magic Sword tournament, he found out that he had some magic armor that was protected. And then he had his friend Ivis do a little bit of background check on him to see what was going on. So
Later, we gotta chat. We gotta chat from
I said, "What's
cauliflower.
up?" I said, "What's
Oh, you
up?"
did?
Kelly.
Yeah.
I didn't see.
Yeah, keep going, Lane. You're
But
good.
anyways, right before the sword tournament, he gets called out, and then he's like, "Oh, he's not going to compete. He ain't coming out." And then his father just happens to show up right then and bring the magic sword to him. And then he starts competing, and he wins the first two rounds. And then we get to the third round with Lei. And him and Lei are fighting. They have these bands put on their wrists that's basically supposed to be depleting their magical power. But the ploy is that Lei's is a fake because he's siding with the royalist. Why is he siding with the royalist? I'll get into that in a second. But anyways, Anyos has his around his wrist, and Lei is in a pack. Lei is in a pack with his over his mother, which is why he actually joined the royalist. His mother is a half spirit, half demon whose life force is starting to drain. And the only way to save her, he had to join the Royalists to save her life and bring her source back to full strength. So that's why he joined the Royalists and basically betrayed ANOS after becoming like slight friends with him. He betrayed ANOS and tried to kill him. Then, anyways, when this started happening, when Anyos was set to die, or when someone was set to die, Anyos was supposed to be trapped in this realm with one of the other 7 emperors. So the 7 emperors could kill Anyos and be done with his power. So Anyos, like we were talking about earlier, he is so perceptive that he understood what was happening with Lei's heart and his source, because his source was in a pact, or it's called a zect in this case. And a zect, basically, if he did not follow through and try to kill Anyos, it would kill him. So he had to follow through and try to kill Anyos. Anyos figured that out and stabbed him right where his source was, managing to destroy the zect as well. When the zect was destroyed, Anyos was then teleported into a different realm with one of the 7 demon emperors, where there was another clash where obviously Anyos won because it's Anyos. He's the most overpowered person. And during this fight with this other 7 emperor, it literally is stated that, oh, that magic band that you were using while you were fighting Lei must have depleted over half of your power now. It's over for you. During that fight, Anyos finally fully unlocked his full power. Because within the Misfit of Demon King Academy, when you are reincarnated, you don't get all of your power back right away. It was even the case with the Demon King of Tyranny. He wasn't a subject. He wasn't like out of this rule. He was still within this. But during this fight with this other 7 emperor, he collects all of his power back, go and gets full strength, and then kills that 7 demon emperor, looks at his source as well, sees it's tainted, gets rid of the taint, and resurrects the source again. And then his old friend that he used to serve with 2,000 years ago starts serving under him again. Then from here's where we move on to the exchange event with the Human Academy, or the Hero Academy, excuse me.
Right. And so, yeah, that entire section is really cool as well. Obviously, you get a little bit more of Lei's backstory. He also, I don't know, Lei is a very interesting character before we get to know who he actually is. But I think that just the interactions between him and Anyos, obviously he fights against him, joins him, and helps him. But there's a mutual respect, but also a little bit of rivalry there early on. And Anyos keeps playing in the back of his mind, this friendship he had with one of his commanders back 2,000 years ago. You keep seeing that, and them promising to be friends if they ever meet again. So he's wondering if that's the person who this is, And so I think that's a really cool, like somewhat of a mystery going on with Lei throughout that. During that entire time too, some of our other main characters like Misha and Sasha are kind of developing some feelings for Anyos. You have kind of that subplot where, uh, I think he went on like a date with Misha and then Sasha kisses him. So there's kind of like a love triangle going on there. I think that's kind of fun. It does seem to me at the end of the first season, I would say I feel like Anyos is more like on the side of uh, Sasha, but it's hard to tell. It seems like she's the one who's going to end up being the choice, unless he just chooses all of them. But yeah, that is another cool part of that little story going on
Good.
as well.
We'll stop.
But Sean, you got anything? Any other things we missed throughout that?
Just like he can keep Sasha. I want Misa, so
Yeah,
that's cool.
that's fair. But yeah, Lana, if you want to kind of get us back into what we get with the exchange event.
All right. So with the exchange event, it starts out with them all starting in the Demon King Academy class. The teacher mentioning the exchange event and how they all have to have 10 days to get there. They're not giving any directions. They just have 10 days to get there. And then the teacher starts bragging, and not to show off or anything, but it took me 3 days to get there. Anyways, right after the class ends, Sasha's sitting there and starts talking with Lei, Misa, and Anyos, Misha, And she's like, "Oh my god, guys, how are we gonna get there?" This, that. He was like, "I'll get us there." He grabs puts like a hand on all of them. They all teleport there. They get there in like 3 seconds. So basically, then Sasha is like, "Oh well, that takes away all the fun of it." And then, anyways, they were like, "What are we gonna do now, Anyos?" And then Anyos was like, "Well, we got some exploring to do. I want to see if the history here is also tainted." Which we then get the group investigating on the Hero Academy 10 days early. While they're investigating, they get stopped by a student of the Hero Academy, and she's like, "Oh, there's no one allowed back here." And then she was like, "Wait a minute, are you guys from the Demon Academy?" And they were like, "Yeah." And then, like, "But I didn't know the exchange event was for another 10 days. Why are you doing here so early?" Anyways, it moves on from them not being allowed in to them being allowed in. Then they go to the history section because, like I said, Anyos wanted to check to see if the history was tainted. And while they're in there, the girl pulls out a book and it shows how the history was written. It says the hero Conan defeated Anyos and Anyos Voldigolt, and all was set right amongst the lands and humans were lived peacefully. Then Sasha gets a little mad about it, and she's like, "Are you kidding me? The only reason it's peace is because the Demon King sacrificed himself." And then it's a little bit of bad blood, and the hero student's like, "Maybe I shouldn't have mentioned that." Anyos was like, "No, it's fine." And then before we get into the next part, do you guys want to talk about any of that I just mentioned?
Yeah, so Bianca is that girl we're introduced to, and I can't remember her. I think she was a third year or something like that. But she's a really cool character. We'll talk a little bit about her more. But her interaction with Sasha and Anyos was pretty cool. She was kind of excited at first to see them after she realized who they were, and she was like, "Yeah, you guys can come along with me. Like, no one's gonna stop you if you're with me." So she's taking them on that tour, and the entire time, Sasha's kind of getting upset because she keeps hearing these things that aren't true about Anyos, and they're talking about the other demon king Avos. So that is definitely a cool little segue from what we were just previously talking about. Now it kind of seems like we're getting into, what the main story is trying to push towards. But
So from there, we are then introduced to 2 of 3 important characters. Like we were talking about how the reincarnations work. Hero Kanan's source, quote unquote, was reincarnated amongst 4 characters that I think that we know of throughout the anime.
yep, I
But
think
we
so.
see 2 at this moment. I want to say it was the second and third
It
reincarnation, if I'm
was.
not the second
Yep.
heart and third heart reincarnations. And anyways, they were feeling hot crap because they're supposed to be super strong in the Hero Academy. And they basically start talking to Anyos, and then one of them throws a spell at Anyos, and which Anyos just blinks and gets rid of it. And then he starts charging at Anyos, and then I forget what happened. I can't remember if he spoke and said something or if he just blinked again. I think he spoke and said something. And basically the other guy just face planted because he couldn't even come close to him. That's how strong he was. He basically like put him on the ground because he was tired of having a conversation with the guy.
And that's the other part about that too. Not to interrupt too much, is I think it's here that Anyos is like, I'm not worried about you. If you were really the sources of Canon, then I might be a little bit worried. But he basically like flexes on him, and can tell just with his demonic eyes that they are not true sources of the hero canon. And um, during that time period too, you kind of mentioned he's telling them about the sources of the 7 sources that Canon had, because even Bianca didn't know that history. So she kind of mentions, "Man, you seem really knowledgeable." So you can see she's kind of intrigued by Anyos as well. But if you want to keep going.
And then after the fight, basically the heroes apologize, and then Anyos apologizes, and they all move on. And then Bianca warns Anyos, basically saying, "Hey, if you're looking to talk to Hero Conan, it's not the same Hero Conan you're used to know." And he was like, "What do you mean?" And then they said, "Hero Conan was killed, not by a demon, but by a human." Which then throws the whole story into a spiral because it's like, okay, now wait a minute. The hero was killed by another hero after the war was over. What's going on? And it's a little weird. But then, if I'm not mistaken, nothing else really happens until the exchange event. which then the exchange event does happen in which the demons are competing against the heroes. And the first competition they have is doing a mutation spell on rats. And the heroes have no problem doing it. They go up, do the spell under like 3 seconds, no problem. The demons, on the other hand, struggle to do a simple spell, and then the Hero Academy starts making fun of them, saying, "You can't even do a simple spell." Anyo says, "Oh, yeah, well, it's easy to not be able to do a spell, and you guys have a barrier around it that no one but you guys can see." And then he gets rid of it, and the spell mutates. And then I think that's really cool showing of how Anyos is so perceptive, not only of demon magic, but also hero magic. It all shows like his overall vast knowledge of both magic sides. Because, like we were talking about, he's a really strong character, but he's not like a one sided character. Like
Right.
he can fit both sides if he needs
Well,
to. So he's
that's
like army knife.
the cool thing too. Adding on to that, you get a little information on that third year as well. He has a really cool relationship with the teacher who's guiding them through these trials. So the other thing too with these trials, normally the first years wouldn't even be allowed to compete, but because they are the I can't remember, it's like the Children of Chaos or something like that. Um, because they're a part of this like particular generation, they're allowed to compete with the third years. And so this third year is competing in this mutation spell because obviously they're not going to let Anyos the first year do it. And he is actually a really big advocate for the Demon King of Tyranny. He's excited for him to come back. You kind of find out that early on, he didn't he didn't approve of the Demon King of Tyranny, and throughout his little arc, he actually I can't remember exactly what happens, but he ends up um, being like one of the biggest admirers of the Demon King, and it's through his teacher that he kind of gains that too. So that's kind of cool.
When they second trial, when they do the underwater battle
Is it that? I thought it was
and they're
with
hit.
the. I thought it was there because Anyos breaks it. Maybe you're right because he does end up saving him.
I thought it's when he gets attacked with the stigma
You might
magic
be right
from the holy attack.
because he's like I'm not I don't want to get healed by you. Yeah.
I don't want you to heal me. And then he's like, "Is it really so bad that you would let your sensei mourn over your death just
Right.
because you can't let yourself be healed?"
Yeah.
And then he
Yeah.
basically he passes out and lets himself get healed. Which then Anyos cleared out the lake to be able to take on the humans himself since they cheated to the first round because they used holy water to boost their magic to fight the demons, which I think shows within the anime at least who was really the aggressor and the bad people and who really was not. Because the Demon King of Tyranny, even though it's the Demon King and you wouldn't expect it, even 2,000 years ago, he didn't like the war. That's why he sacrificed himself. He literally let himself be killed, which is weird because like his body dies multiple times, but he resurrects himself. Like he let himself fully be killed
Right.
just so there could be peace. So, especially within like the first two trials that we see, the humans cheating and stuff, I think that shows like where their mindsets really are because like 2,000 years has passed since that war's been over. They haven't been at war in over 2,000 years.
So this gets
There's no
into
reason
like
demons.
overall themes of the show, which we can talk about now. I definitely want to give a good section at the end to talk about too, because I feel like a big obviously you have demons and humans, right? And there's hatred, a lot of hatred from the human side towards the demons. And so I think
They
that
also have spirit.
and yeah, there and I think there's several other ones too. But
They're we won't get into those till the second season.
right. So this kind of reflects our world too with discrimination between races and everything. And I think it's handled really cool in this because obviously us as humans would normally be able to empathize with other humans, right? In this case, the humans kind of are the bad guys, and you see them cheat in these couple exams. And it shows that not only do they hate for no reason against the demons, but also they're afraid of them. You know, they feel like they have to cheat to try to, you know, show that they're just as powerful. They have to fake being, you know, members of or like sources of the hero canon. You know, they have to portray this image to feel relevant in this fight. And so I think it's cool how you get to see the flip side of that. You know, the people that you would normally be afraid of are the people who are somewhat persecuted, you know. And I think also too that's mirrored in the infighting in demon society, where you have, you know, that the royalists, the highborn against the lowerborn, hybrids, all those sorts of people. So don't want to get too much into all the main themes, but that is definitely one we can talk about because you kind of see it here. But we're kind of talking a little bit now about the second trial. So, Landon, if you want to kind of explain what goes on in that second one.
Second trial is basically an underwater battle where the humans take on the demons. And originally, the teacher was considering on letting Anyos and his his four subordinates fight. But the student that you were talking about, who developed a really deep bond with the woman, uh, begged and plead for him and his group being able to go. So they went and competed. We found out throughout from Anyos because he has very perceptive eyes. He's very smart and intelligent, and not much gets by him. So he figured out just from watching that the water was being boosted for human magic and dampening and basically a toxic
They
or
were using
poison
holy
to
water,
demons. Holy water.
which is
So it's
crazy.
Yeah.
quite literally a.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah. How much more cheating can you do? And then from there, like we were saying, the after the demons basically lose, the demon instructor Eleanor, not Eleanor, what's her name?
I can't remember the teacher.
Ludwig. I don't remember
Yeah.
what her name is. Ludwig
Uh,
though. Um, she's basically pleading with the human guy and saying, "Hey, go save the students." She's like, "No, if it was up to me, you'd all die." He wants them all to die, basically. So Anyos basically used his magic and raised all the demons out of the water and brought him over to safety. Then we had that little interaction with the teacher's pet and Anyos where like he didn't want to be healed and he was like, "You really gonna just be so like egotistical that you're not gonna let me heal you? You're gonna let your, sensei cry over you?" And then he heals him. And then Anyos pointed out like, "Hey, it's not very nice that you guys are cheating," which I think is really cool because it shows like how intelligent Anyos is and like nothing gets by him. Like he's so perceptive. Like he doesn't initially call anything out. He lets stuff plays out before he calls it out because he's so strong. He knows it's not going to matter. And then the humans are basically bloating like, "What? Do you want to drain the whole lake or something?" "Yeah, we'll wait." And then Anyos makes a joke like, "I won't make you wait. Don't worry." Drains the whole lake in 3 seconds. It's over. Like the whole lake's gone in 3 seconds. Like it's a big lake too. We're not talking about a little pond. We're talking about a lake gone, which I think
Period. Gone.
shows overwhelming power.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it's just removing water, but like
So,
everybody there was the instructor, students, everybody was surprised, which is therefore showing none of them could do it.
right, before we get into the fight in the actual like bowl now that's created, I want to say a couple more things. So, I agree with you. I think it's cool how Anyos lets things play out. He allows like people to shine and do their own thing, and he like promotes it. Like for instance, he could have like told the teacher, "Hey, there's holy water." Instead, he transferred his demonic eyes to hers so she could see it for herself. Like it's cool things like that that make you realize how like empathetic and cool Anyos's character is. Not to mention how overpowered he is. And then also, too, during the fight, um, where they're underwater, the third year does kind of come up with a good plan, and Anyos does kind of like support his plan. However, obviously, it doesn't play out well. But like, it's cool how Anyos does that, and helps kind of boost these supporting characters and give them a reason for us to care about them. You know. But anyway, now we're down kind of into uh, the lake. The humans like teacher, he's freaking out, saying that that water was given to us by the gods, and telling them to like call it off. She wants them to keep going, and then you get the three supposed sources of canon seeming to be excited because now it's going to be a real fight. So, Lane, if you want to take it away.
What am I taking away?
Uh, we're now down like in the lower bowl of the fight where like Lei is fighting that like more childlike source of canon, and each person's
Oh,
fighting.
Oh,
of canon. Zetsura or something like that. I forget how to pronounce her name. She's a little
Oh,
girl.
it's Zeshia.
Zeshia. Yes. Zeshia is basically like this overpowered, very strong source. She doesn't talk. She's very quiet. Which, in truth, she does talk. That was a lie. So, anyways, she was being controlled by this character that I can't remember her name right now, and
So I'm pretty sure isn't that
basically that
Eleanor? Isn't Eleanor controlling her?
is Eleanor.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's who it is. She's being controlled by Eleanor. And basically, what Eleanor is made to do is only create Zashi or whatever her name was. I think it was right.
Yep.
But that's what she does. She just constantly recreates that.
She basically
And we
like
get the
she's
first
basically like a puppet master. Her power is to like create all these Zeshias and control them. Right? Is kind of how I got.
yes. And then we get that first experience when they use an overpowered attack, which basically kills the person using it. Deshia then uses the attack, which she stabs her own source to blow herself up on Anos, which it doesn't work. It's suicide. Just keeps killing herself. But then we like see her come back to the fight again, and she does it again. She's like, okay, she's dead again. And then she comes back, she's dead again. And then she comes back, and then it's just like an ongoing fight. And I really can't remember what happens from there. So would you like to take it away from there, Justice?
Yeah. So really, that fight, you kind of get Lay kind of shines. He defeats that. I can't remember the name of him, but he's got like blonde hair. He looks like he's younger than everybody else. Um,
The sixth heart.
yes, but he defeats him pretty handily, and he was making this whole joke the entire time about like getting a stigmata on Lay, and Lay basically at the end is standing over top of him and is about ready to slash me. He's like, "Don't slash me." He's like, "You'd be lucky if stigmata was the worst thing you get on the battlefield if you saw me," and that was obviously like a big flex for him and really cool. I think you also got Misha. She was building castles. She seems to be like a big defender for the team. And like her big ability is to make these massive castles. And you got the two other sources talking about how are we going to allow her to uh, make defenses. We're going to take them down, and we're going to use like a roaming force. So you have that fight going on. And basically Anyos flexes there again and ends up taking care of it. He also ends up in resolution. This is kind of where I have a hard time remembering where the transition happens, because at a certain point it transitions from these ordeals to like the big conflict with um, Avos and Jurga, right?
Kind of starts like right after that exam.
Yeah. So the exam basically wraps
Like
up.
exam, I don't even think the exam actually technically finished before it started.
Yeah, because it wasn't there a third one that they didn't get
I'm
to.
pretty
No, I
sure
think
of that exam.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's how it ended. With Jurga coming back into play, which Jurga was a character that hated the Demon King 2,000 years ago and wanted nothing more but the Demon King to die.
And he seemed to be a
Yes.
subordinate of Canon, right? Um, like,
I wouldn't say a subordinate because it didn't work the same way as the Demon King
right,
Society. It's not like they had a ruler and then everybody else. They have a king, but he's not a fighter. Hiro Kanen was just like the number one like lieutenant and like soldier basically.
right.
If I'm not mistaken, Jurgo was technically a higher ranking officer, but not like a stronger fighter. Cannon was the number one fighter for the
Yeah,
heroes,
he was
but
like the military
Jurgo,
power, whereas the hero was like the people's champion, right?
yeah, well, he wasn't just the people shit. He was the strongest hero.
Right.
Also, because he only had 7 sources, that's the only reason he was able to rival the Demon King's
Oh,
power.
I remember how that
But
ended too, the exam as well. So
perfect, go ahead.
basically at the end you have the sources saying we have all of humanity now. There used to be in your age like 100,000 humans. Now there's 10 million humans, and we have all their hopes and dreams on our side. There's no way that you could possibly defeat us. And it's funny because then Anos is like, yeah, well, I have 8 chicks that love me. I'm gonna have them sing and like give me some superpowers, and he just flexes all over them. So you get the demon academy basically sweeping the humans in that, and then we get into the conflict we're kind of talking about with Jurga, and that's an interesting character too because obviously you have the hero, which you're kind of starting to learn more and more about, and he seems to be like this good protagonist. That's someone who was on an opposing side of ANOS, in the distant past, but had similar feelings towards peace and wanted the war to end. Whereas it seems like Jurga might have been this force that was helping promote the war and was this source of hatred towards anything that wasn't human. So, moving on from the exam, we kind of get into, don't they end up going, they end up staying in the human realm, don't they, for that? Or do they have to flee
Yeah.
once Avos shows himself?
Yeah.
Yeah, the last little bit.
Yeah.
So now we're kind of like in the last 3 episodes, I think, right? And you get Avos is trying to uncover who this false demon king is. You get a little bit more about Jurga's backstory. I think this is where, again, you see the lieutenant in the past, him come back, and he tells Avos a little bit more what that he's like been researching behind the scenes. And he tells him that in the history of the humans, there's no record of a human killing the hero. It says that I think he died years later after establishing peace. So obviously, you get to know that all of human history is also false. That someone, and now we know Jurga, um, ended up tampering with the history and made it so that humans basically have a reason to hate the demons, because that's this kind of narrative that he's been promoting the entire time. But let's see. You guys have any thoughts as to like that transition between the academia and then more so into our final battle?
Go ahead, Sean.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm drawing a blank on the final battle.
All right. Well,
I
kind
might
of.
have skipped it. I'm just
No, you're good. I'll kind of
kidding.
refresh your memory on the how like the lead up towards everything. So you get like a little arc with uh, Eleanor, where Anyos uses his power to make it so that, because she, after all this happens, after the exam, she kind of feels like her purpose is no longer there anymore. Um, Actually, no, I think that's even later on. It's not to that yet. There is some more resolution to Bianca's or Eleanor's story, but after this, we get the introduction of Avos del Hevio, the um, what humanity and the demons currently think is the true king of the demons. He makes his reappearance. He's wearing this helmet, and he's got several subordinates helping him. He basically is rallying the demons to fight against the humans, because the humans now have also announced that they want to create a war with the demons. So you're getting this big conflict between the two societies. Jurga is basically the figurehead of the human struggle. He projects his face up so that the whole world basically can see, and he declares war on the demons. Everybody flees back to the demon realm, I believe, and starts preparing for war. Um, Everybody is decided to join in on the fight for this false demon king, not knowing obviously that Anyos is the true demon king. His crew, his main crew, all seems to stay on his side, but all of a sudden he can't find Lei, and Landon, do you remember the ending? You want to finish kind of what we went through with the last couple episodes?
Well, basically, the ending fight involves Anyos and Avos, the heavier. And what happens is Lei wants, or Avos in this case, because we figure out at the ending that Avos Dalhevier is actually Lei in disguise. And he basically says, I want you to kill me in front of all of the humans so they can know that the Demon King is dead so we can truly be in peace. And what actually happens is instead, I think if I'm not mistaken, Anos puts a black wall, which is how he managed to split the world out 2,000 years ago. He puts the black wall on both sides so neither the humans or demons can see what's going on. He then switches outfits with Lei and has Lei kill him instead because Lei is the reincarnation of the hero Conan. So the story actually still stayed true. The hero Conan defeated the demon king of tyranny and saved the world and put everyone at peace. And then after he kills the demon king and basically he disintegrates, quote unquote, disappears, so everyone thinks he's dead. He declares that there should be no more fighting, heroes should surrender, and demons should also surrender and retreat. And basically everyone agrees with that and they all surrender and they all retreat and they all live to fight another day. Then Anos comes back. And then I'll let you take it from there, Justice.
Yeah. So during that fight with the hero Conan 2, it's pretty cool because um, you obviously get that reveal. At first, obviously, you don't know it's Lei. You kind of have in the back of your mind it could be. You had a little bit of foreshadowing before that, but it did take me by surprise at first when I watched it because the entire time I was thinking Abbas Dahavia could be the hero. I never thought that it would have been Lei though. I thought Lei was the lieutenant or general of Anyos back in the day. So that was a really cool reveal, and he tells his story basically of what ended up happening. He says that um, he basically had to get rid of his name in history and rewrite it so that he could stop this hatred. But years and years have passed, and it's never been the case. And this was the only way that he could figure out how to do it. And so Anyos sees like this person that he obviously cares about, has sacrificed himself once for, and doesn't want to allow that to happen again. So he basically challenges him to a fight, and they decide they're basically going to fight each other to protect each other. And Anyos destroys six of his his sources in like pretty brutal fashion too, and it ends up he switches the helmet, gets stabbed, and the whole world sees it. And so even Anyos in defeat is completely controlling the battlefield, which I thought was awesome. Um, then you get into what Landon kind of left off on. The main fight against Jurga. Um, this is again, I think, where he calls on the sisters to give him some music as well. Um, and you kind of get the main showdown there. The hero canon now. Everyone, it's kind of cool. The crowd, even the demonic side, is like we know who the true uh, demon king is. Like even though the entire thing, the entire time was Avos Telhevia, they see through his actions that Anyos is the true king, and they follow him into battle. The hero helps get his people to battle, and they go fight Jurga and end up becoming victorious in that. This is where you get that thing I mentioned earlier with Eleanor. You get a little bit of resolution with her story. Um, Anya, I can't remember exactly how he goes about it because he had these magic spells that he has is very convoluted and very interesting. But he finds a way to be able to make it so that all of the Zeshias that she's been created don't don't end up passing away, and she can actually take care of them like her dream is. Beforehand, she was wanting to die because she felt like her main mission to get her message to the Demon King had been fulfilled, and she didn't want to be anybody's tool anymore. So Anyos basically takes her magic essence and makes it his, and that basically frees her from ever being anybody's tool again. And she can basically be a mother to all these Zeshias that she's cared for so long. So that basically restores her will to live, and um, at the end, this is kind of more towards the ending of the show. He ends up bringing Misha, Sasha, and now Eleanor home, and Dad flips out again like always. He's like, one, two, three, and he freaks out again because they feel like he's brought home another bride. Um, and then Sasha makes a joke. She's like, I can just imagine their faces when they find out they have like a million kids or something like that. And he's like, "Does
10,000.
yeah, 10,000?" And um, the dad's like, "Does that make me a grandpa?" Like those exchanges are hilarious. So it's that, and that was kind of what I was saying about how the parents are huge wingmen earlier, because obviously it cuts to Avos and he has like a smile on his face, like kind of a smirk, because he sees like his parents are like getting all three of these girls on his side. He's like, "Do you have mushroom gratin?" Which is like, I guess, his favorite dish. And his mom's like, "Yeah, come in, everybody, eat." So he's definitely got it made. He's got um, the two main girls that we were introduced throughout the season, and now a potential new love interest in Eleanor, who also was the first to profess her love to him after he saved all those Zeshias. She said, "I love you," which I thought was interesting because his first date was with Misha, his first kiss was with Sasha, and then the first one to declare love was Eleanor. So I'm curious to see how that will play out. But that kind of wraps up the show. You guys have any like ending thoughts on any of the themes or anything you saw in season one? You think
Um,
we covered it?
I think, yeah, I think we covered it pretty well. I will say though, season one, this is an anime where you don't have to wait long for it to get straight to the point. It really gets to the theme and gets to the motive within the story within, I would say honestly, the first episode. You kind of get a little hook line towards at the end of the first episode, and then after that, you'll be pretty hooked for the rest of the first season. There's not really any gaps that make you want to be like, I don't really want to continue watching this anime. So I thought they did a really good job of that, keeping the community engaged at least for season one fully.
Yeah. Len, how about you?
I thought it was overall pretty good. I liked season one a lot. Don't really got many complaints.
So I think that season one, there was a complete story really told. I'm curious because we didn't really get many teasers on season two. I'm curious to see where it goes, but I felt like they really fleshed out a full story there, and you get kind of the resolution with the hero Kanen. It seems like the world should be at peace. Obviously, there's more to the story, and we'll get into that next week on Sunday. But I'm curious to see where it goes. I thought that there were some major themes that they brought up in the first season. I kind of talked about the race, um, discrimination stuff, the class systems. I thought were interesting. I really like how they took an overpowered protagonist. You see that a lot in anime, and they really made him seem humble, and yet also could flex on someone and just say like the coldest lines ever. So I feel like that was a really cool written character. But yeah, I think that basically summarizes the first episode. Um, we probably missed a couple things here and there. This is our first time really delving into, you know, an actual anime and discussing like points by points. That's something that we'll keep getting better at. So we appreciate you guys checking it out and hanging in there with us for that. But I wanted to let you guys know before we wrap up here, I'm going to go ahead and get this uploaded to YouTube and Spotify, all the other podcasting platforms I've mentioned in the past. Um, I'll get that up to you guys as soon as I can, so you'll have that either tonight or tomorrow. And then we also have made some socials. So we've made Instagram, I'm making Twitter, and we're making TikTok. So we'll have some clips on there for you guys, and that'll also be the place that you can see when we're uploading, see our clips we make, all that fun stuff. But I'll have a link for you guys at the bottom of the webpage next week containing all those so you guys can go follow them. But that's going to do it for us here. We'll catch you guys next week. Deuces.
Yep.